Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm Keith Downey, your host, and very excited to welcome back Matthew Archbold, speaker, author, and columnist for several prominent Catholic publications. He's also the host of What's on the Mind of Matthew Archbold on Annunciation Radio. Good morning, Matthew, and welcome back to the show.
Good morning, Keith. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm a little chilly, and people might laugh because it's only 40 degrees in Tucson, Arizona. So I have no shame.
It's funny. Last night I'm here in Pennsylvania. I was walking my dog last night, and I was literally walking around in just a T-shirt and thinking the exact opposite. I was like, 40 degrees. I love this.
This is balmy weather. That's so fun. So, the Shroud of Turin seems to have come back in the headlines, and you've got an incredible pulse on all of these things. But for those out there that are tuning in that might have no idea what the Shroud of Turin is, maybe starting off, could you tell us what that exactly is?
Well, the Shroud of Turin is believed to be, by many, to be the burial cloth of Christ. Now, this is a very, very controversial piece of cloth. It is, draped in controversy. Is it a medieval forgery? What is this thing exactly? But what happened amazingly is Mel Gibson was on the Joe Rogan show, and they began discussing the Shroud of Turin, and this is a really big deal. This reaches millions upon millions. I mean, this podcast draws 14 million listeners, many of them young, many of them secular. And you look at those numbers. That's about double what NBC News gets on a night. And I was thinking back because I was writing an article for the Register about the Shroud recently. And I thought to myself, the last time the Shroud was in the news this much, it was in the 80s. It was being declared a fake.
Wow.
And it's difficult to imagine, unless you went through it, how big of a deal that was at the time for it to be declared by the science a fake. The science spaketh from on high, with all their microscopes and blinking lights, and they discarded it. And for me and for many, I've spoken to many people, it really was a gut punch. And I remember even at the time, my mother, she had 7 kids. She was going to be a nun before she met my dad, but she immediately dismissed it. She said, "Oh, the science is wrong." And I remember, I'm a teenager, so I know everything, right? That's a little insight into what a joy I must have been as a kid. But I remember saying, "Mom, this is science. You can't just dismiss it." And she's like, "Well, I know what I know." That was one of her things. But at that time, it seems our culture really made a turn, and it just became science should heretofore be considered the ultimate arbiter of truth, and all future questions should be laid at the altar of jolly-faced, spectacled men who didn't date much in college, But then a funny thing happened. Christ, it turns out, did not forget us, and he was prepared even for our doubting age. What's become clear over the years. Now, I'm going before the most recent revelation. What became clear over the years is that despite what the committee said about it being a medieval hoax, there were so many problems with that. It seems that instead of taking the samples from many places on the Shroud, they took it from one place and one place alone, and then cut it up into little parts, which is very, very weird, very peculiar, and not what they said they were going to do. It's almost like they found what they were trying to find. And over the years, I researched it more, and it turns out the Shroud is not the result of any paint or dye or any technique. And the science has absolutely no idea how the Shroud could have been created. The pollens on the Shroud date back to the 1st century. in the Middle East. The weaving dates back to that time. I further learned, and this is insane, that the image of the wounds line up exactly with those described in the gospel. There's blood found on the shroud. That blood is AB blood, which is the blood most often found in Eucharistic miracles. There's chemical evidence. This is insane. Chemical evidence that the blood is high in bilirubins, which is a yellowish liquid. Sorry to get weird. A yellowish liquid secreted through the liver in times of extreme torture and duress, which you can only get that through that kind of process, that kind of suffering. The dirt is also consistent. The image itself is a photographic negative, which can't be duplicated even today. Even today, it can't. Now, when all this was pointed out, many just snorted and said, oh, well, science says it's a medieval hoax. But most recently, a number of scientists in Italy, using X-ray machines and, again, with the blinking lights and the whole thing, and they have said that the shroud is about 2,000 years old, which puts it about that same time as a little incident you and I like to call the resurrection. And an amazing thought occurred to me. For so many people, science and faith are separate. Oh, yeah, you can believe what you want, but the science is the science. And, Albert Einstein once said, the more I study science, the more I believe in God. But what if science leads us to God? What if the shroud was intentionally left by God for us to be able to decipher using the technology that would only come 2 millennia later? Think about that. We've largely turned our backs on structured religion. We even call ourselves post-Christian. Literally we call ourselves that. Yet Jesus, at the moment, after the worst suffering, the worst torture you could possibly imagine, and at the moment of his resurrection, he created the shroud in a way that he knew that only we could decipher its mysteries. He literally is using the vehicle of our disbelief to return us to our faith, because only our rational and scientific age could unlock the truth about the shroud. There's something amazing and reassuring in that. And God had us in mind at the moment of his resurrection. He left clues for us that only we could unlock. It just blows my mind. It's just mind-blowing, soul-filling, heart-skipping a beat. It's just, what won't God do to bring us back to him? So the thing we have to say is, anyone who doubts, we just tell them, hey, trust the science.
Trust the science. Follow the science. Come on, you know the thing. So yeah, with this getting just a lot of visibility now with Joe Rogan's podcast and with Mel Gibson. I haven't gotten a chance to look at the comments section, but what's been the general consensus of people? Because like you said, there's people that are seeing this for the very first time, or hearing about it for the very first time.
Well, there's a lot of argumentation, but one of the great things I've seen, and it blows my mind, but, you and I are in this stuff. We're neck deep in this stuff all the time. But there's so many people out there who are like, wait, what is this? What is this shroud thing? Let me go on YouTube and look it up. And thank God that there's so much out there now, out there that can show people. But, and that's the thing, it's just so funny. Guys like you and I, we're doing this stuff all the time. And you forget that some people just have accepted so many of the lies our culture tells us. You know what I mean? And I sometimes think we're coming at it an opposite way, and that's why something like this, which leaves, I mean, it leaves so many breadcrumbs back to Christ. And it just, it's like God put, I'll put the pun out there, Easter eggs for us, for our age, that we could unlock 2,000 years later. This is, so many people say, oh, I trust the science, I trust the science. Okay, well, the science is telling you that this is 2,000 years old, that this is a man who was tortured. This is from first century Jerusalem. What more do you need? This is truly an amazing moment. And I truly am amazed at how God is active in our world today. We're seeing so many conversions, people really seeing the need to put Christ at the center of our culture, or else it's meaningless. You even have guys like Dawkins, who's saying, I am now a cultural Christian, because he realizes that when you're playing this cultural game of Jenga and you remove Christ from it, it all falls down. So, he wants, he wants the fruit of the tree. He just doesn't believe in the tree, but right. That's kind of impossible. But I really do sense, and I hope you do too, and I wonder if you do, Keith, do you sense a turnaround, that something is changing within recent years?
Oh yes, the wind has definitely shifted. I can see it online. There's definitely something happening, and we'll have to put a pin in that and continue on the after show Clubhouse. But I just wanted to thank you so much, Matthew, for joining us this morning. We can find more about Matthew Archbold you can Google him, but you can find him on the National Catholic Register, thecatholicdigest.com, so many places. But hey, we're going to transition on over to our after show Clubhouse, which is a great way for us to unpack, debrief from the show. We still got so much to talk about, especially about the Shroud of Turin. So make sure to tune into that. Just search Morning Joy Radio on any of the social medias, or GRN online. That's who produces, of course, the show, the production here of Morning Joy. But if you're unable to make it, please pray for us. We will continue to pray for you. Otherwise, we'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Central, 7 a.m. Eastern, here on Morning Joy, where truth matters.
This has been Morning Joy, where truth matters, hosted by Keith Downey. Take some joy with you today. Visit grnonline.com/joy to listen again, share a segment, or answer the question of the day. That's grnonline.com/joy.